Well, nice to meet everyone. My name is Phil Ratcliffe, CEO of Centerline Biomedical. Okay, yeah, maybe I'll just start with a quick story. So I got a phone call about 4 months ago from a vascular surgeon, very prominent one, and his only words were, "I have thyroid cancer. You've got to go faster with your technology." And you'll see some of that today, being 3D surgical navigation via an electromagnetic source for complex endovascular procedures, and that's what we're about at Centerline Biomedical, and I'm excited about the opportunity to share this with you. So investment highlights, really 5 core things I want to touch on and where we're at from a stage of a company. Number 1, 510(k) cleared in the descending aorta as an adjunct to fluoro. Procedures like EVAR, aneurysm repairs, TEVAR, FEVAR. It's a platform technology, so although we started in the descending aorta, we have active programs moving in aortic arch and the ascending world, and then also to neuro world, whether that be via subclavian or carotids. We also have an active structural heart program, so know that the technology we have today is a platform technology that will go to other areas within the body. Large TAM, large growth markets is where we're looking to grow. We have an impressive patent portfolio. We have 22 patents that are issued. We have 35 pending right now, US and OUS. Revenue generating, we began a commercial launch early last year. Happy to say we're in 8 US institutions. We'll talk about that later, and an attractive financial profile. And a well-experienced management team with a world-class set of advisors helping us grow. So we were founded in 2014. We're a spin out of the Cleveland Clinic, founded by a world-renowned vascular surgeon named Dr. Roy Greenberg. Like I already had mentioned, we're 510(k) cleared. What we have is a cart that's mobile. It wheels into a hybrid suite or into an OR suite. It's compatible with any manufacturing or imaging incumbent. So Philips, GE, Siemens, we work on the same DICOM input. We use electromagnetic as our source, and that's what actually tracks catheters and guide wires, and in the future, implantables into the body for precise placement. And we'll be launching in Europe next year. So we used to always use 2D maps to get from point A to point B. It's an easy analogy to wrap your heads around. I wouldn't go anywhere without Google Maps or Waze now. But unfortunately, what we do in complex endovascular surgery is like 2D maps. It's 2-dimensional, it's grayscale, and you have no 3-dimensional aspect to it. To the right, you can see our technology solution called IOPS, the Intraoperative Positioning System. And just to take a look at the amount of clarity that you get, you can toggle in and out, you can rotate and spin with a mouse, and you can do this all without stepping on the pedal, radiating radiation. Radiation is bad. That's the summary of this slide. There's a lot of documentation around it. The physician that had thyroid cancer, our founder, Roy Greenberg, passed. Ted Dietrich died of left side heart cancer. It's a real thing, and it's getting more and more attention. So this is the value proposition. Smaller, faster procedure, because it's simpler, less radiation, less contrast dye, and increasing really the throughput and the types of patients that you can see. This is a common origin, kind of celiac, SMA. You see us on the right. That's our tracked catheter. So you have this vasculature. You can see this now. And then you see the guide wire tip actually going and cannulating the vessel there. On the right, I think what's important about that, this was a 1.3 millimeter vessel. We're trying to get a guide wire, a physician at the Cleveland Clinic, into a lower renal here, and you can see the catheter's got a directional indicator on it. He'll point it at the entry point of where the ostium is to this artery. He will then retract back the guide wire tip. He has it all lined up, and boom, you're in. I'd be remiss not to tell you how long that could take to try to get a catheter and a wire into a target vessel that small. This is our system. So we sell a mobile cart on wheels. Again, it works with any imaging incumbent. You wheel it in. You've got an electromagnetic field generator that sits underneath the patient. That just affixes to the table with hand screws, so there's not a bricks and mortar change. You then got you have a small box off a bed rail there. It looks like an IVUS box, if you're familiar with that. And that's what you plug in your catheter and your guide wire into to create the loop. So that you can see your catheters and guide wires within this electromagnetic field that's generated around the patient. The one key thing is number 2, that's a fiducial tracking pad. And what that does prior to the procedure, it goes on the patient's back. And there's spheres in there, that's fiducial markers. And at the beginning of the procedure, you take a preoperative image, it gets segmented in about 5 minutes. Then on day of surgery, you wheel the patient into the room, you place that tracking pad on the patient's back, then you perform a cone beam CT spin. The cone beam CT is looking for fiducial markers in that tracking pad and then marrying that up to the preoperative CTA, and that becomes your registration for step. But the key about the tracking pad is that if the patient were to move on the table, up, down, left, or right, we know where that patient is relative to the spin we just did. So the system and what you see on the screen corrects real time. It corrects 50 times a second. So you don't have a misregistration. As we toggling a little bit to clinical cases, so we did a bolus of our cases last year, north of 60. We've done 75 cases overall, beginning to build the library of clinical data. We have some established right now, continuing to build that as we go forward. And this formatting got a little thrown off, but we'll deal with it. So the SMA study that was performed and published in the Journal of Vascular Surgery in December of this year, so it's our first peer-reviewed journal, showed some significant results. The TIME study demonstrated a 50% decrease in time of procedure amongst 30 physicians at Cleveland Clinic, MGH, and UNC. Usability, it's very easy to use. It feels very much like the catheters and the guide wires that the physicians use now. And we also are beginning to work on stent integration. I'll just leave you one excerpt. If you just take your eyes to the red, I think that's the takeaway. IOPS facilitated rapid catheterization within 45 to 90 seconds of the target artery in 3 cases without fluoro or contrast. That's amazing, and that's what we're about at Centerline. And I wouldn't just take the risk of radiation. It's an interesting topic because people have talked about it for years. It now something has been done that's real. And what I mean by that is last Thursday on the 10th of 2022, the omnibus bill was passed into law by President Biden, and $1.5 trillion. Well, in there was specific language now that we worked with lobbyists, a group called G2G, that's our government lobbying body, and up on the Hill, to get specific language in there to use radiation-reducing technologies when available. And that finally got in. So really proud of the team's effort on that. To actually change and have that as law right now could be very much a large tailwind for the company. Can I go back? Yeah, this is a little bit of our growing customer base. I talked about some of the institutions on the top, but obviously large, well-known luminary sites. The target markets and the size of them are all big. We're FDA cleared in the descending aorta, and we're moving, as I said, to arch, ascending, neuro, and then move into structural heart and others, and a prospective timeline below, and we'll have clearance on that. This is a little bit of our futures. This is the work in TAVR to try to align up commissure alignment. You can see in the picture to the right, what you need to do is get commissures so that you don't cover the coronaries. All I'll tell you is that we were able to sensorize a Medtronic graph here, and you can see the rotation right there to actually allow for pinpoint placement of your commissures so that reintervention for a TAVR or TAVI procedure could be done more efficiently. This is what work well underway. The second piece we're doing is on transeptal crossing, actually seeing where in the fossa ovalis you want to cross to get the left side heart condition so you can maybe more efficiently or effectively do your Watchmans or mitral clips. But this is work that's well ongoing. We can identify it, maybe reduce the need for TEE or ICE, and get pinpoint placement. So I talked about the patent portfolio, and I'll close with this. Series B is underway. We've raised 80% of a $25 to $30 million round. We're north of 20 right now, and we're looking to fill the final, call it 3 to 8 million. It may flex a little bit. But that's it for me. Sorry I'm out of time. Sorry I rushed, and thanks for your attention.